The sky split with thunderless sound as a galactic dropship breached the stratosphere, shimmering against the blue with a sheen of alien alloy that defied physics as humans knew it. It didn't descend so much as assert itself into position, hovering, imposing, a godless obelisk casting a metallic shadow over the cracked concrete of what used to be Fort Braddock. A column of galactic soldiers disembarked in perfect synchrony, boots striking Earth with the precision of imperial design. 8 feet tall, encased in iridescent exosuits that refracted sunlight in pulses, they walked like creatures unfamiliar with the idea of resistance. They had come not to conquer, but to enforce integration protocols for Earth's own good. One of them, Sergeant Vesh, paused at the edge of the landing platform, scanning the dusty perimeter through the glossy slit of his helmet's interface. Earth's gravity was slightly heavier than his homeworld's, but it hardly mattered. The servos in his armor compensated, making each step feel like a practice performance. He raised a 3-fingered hand and gestured toward a rusted weapons locker near the base's ruins. A human liaison, nervous, sweating, and very much unarmed, scrambled to obey. That's, remnants from the old regime. Outdated stuff. Haven't been used in years. Vesh didn't respond immediately. He knelt, prying open the locker, revealing a stack of worn, matte black rifles. Ballistic, chemical combustion, kinetic. He let out a clicking sound that passed for a laugh. These are toys. Another galactic soldier joined him, lifting one of the rifles and inspecting it as though it might still bite. No energy core. No pulse indicators. Primitive metallurgy. Their projectiles aren't even self-guided. He dropped it like it offended his touch. And they called us here for this? Vesh stood, brushing dust off his leg plates. They called us because they still dream of rebellion. But if this is what they hope to resist us with, they're even more naive than command feared. The squad spread out, systematically deconstructing the installation. Drones hovered into the air, releasing sprays of nanite disablers to neutralize anything with an energy signature. Local communications were intercepted, filtered, archived. Earth's modest satellites were already under galactic control, their feeds repurposed to surveil the planet that once claimed independence. In orbit, the flagship Tasserel loomed silently, a spear pointed downward. A reminder. 200 miles away, a man lay flat in the brush, unmoving even as insects crept over his boots. He watched the alien landing zone through a high-powered scope, the rifle cradled against his shoulder, a whisper of old ghosts. The forest around him breathed in summer silence, but his heartbeat was slow, measured, deliberate. Marcus Hale adjusted the windage on his scope by instinct. There was no electronic display, no guidance system. His rifle wasn't smart. It was loyal. He exhaled once and let the wind carry the rest. In his ear, a faint transmission crackled, encrypted analog, old school. Visual confirmation on the drop. Ghost. Do not engage. Recon only. Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. His finger hovered near the trigger, not out of disobedience, but ritual. He needed to know, needed to feel the pull again. He watched the aliens mock the rifle. His rifle. They didn't know yet, but they would. Back at Fort Braddock, Vesh reviewed a live feed from another continent, Paris, or what was left of it. A protest had broken out. Citizens waving hand-painted banners, shouting into the wind beneath a cloud of orbital drones. He zoomed in, noting the signs. Down with off-world overlords. Earth decides for Earth. He turned to the human liaison. Is this how you interpret peace? The man flinched. They don't understand what's happening. If you give it time, people will adjust. Time is irrelevant, Vesh said coldly. Stability is not a matter of understanding. It is a matter of submission. Earth was granted probationary status in the Accord. Your leaders accepted containment. That includes arms restrictions. Yes, the liaison said quickly. All kinetic weapons are scheduled for decommissioning. Most have been destroyed already, except they haven't. Vesh tilted his helmet slightly. We found stashes, unauthorized caches, signs of mobilization. Someone is preparing for war. The liaison paled. If someone's stockpiling arms, it's without government sanction. Probably rogue elements. Ex-military, maybe. Then we will find them, Vesh said, more to himself than anyone else. Up in the hills, Marcus finally moved. He disassembled a rifle in careful, silent motions, each piece placed into foam-lined compartments in a worn canvas pack. No fingerprints, no casing left behind, only boot prints, and even those he'd brush away on his exit. He slid into the shadows of the forest like he'd been born there, leaving behind nothing but flattened grass. Night fell over the camp, and with it came a strange quiet. The Galactic soldiers didn't sleep. They entered low-energy stasis, standing in perfect stillness. Only the drones hummed, performing lazy circles in the sky, bored without conflict. And yet, something shifted in the dark. A feeling, an itch. A static burst punctuated the stillness inside Vesh's helmet. He activated the comms. Report. Perimeter sensors briefly triggered. No visuals. Might be local wildlife. Log the time. Increase drone sweep radius to 30 clicks. He didn't like this. The humans were erratic, but not suicidal. Not unless they knew something he didn't. Somewhere far beyond their scanners, Marcus stood on a hill, watching the aliens' lights flicker against the blackened terrain. He clicked open a notebook and scribbled a single line beneath a list of coordinates and wind patterns. They underestimate the sound of silence. He closed the book and looked skyward, where the stars no longer belonged to Earth. That was fine, because they'd forgotten something important. Kinetic didn't need to mean obsolete. It just meant undetectable. And in the war that was coming, that would be enough. Marcus turned and vanished into the tree line, leaving the wind to whisper secrets the stars would never hear. The alien banners hung limp over every city, curved sigils etched in luminous blue, pulsing faintly in the night like veins of some vast, sleeping beast. The world beneath them felt quieter now, not peaceful, just subdued. Surveillance drones drifted overhead with the dispassion of ghosts. Galactic patrols walked the streets in pairs, not out of fear, but as a message. We are always watching, and we are never alone. In New Boston, the old Commonwealth barracks had been repurposed as an alien garrison. The surrounding neighborhoods, once alive with weekend markets and morning traffic, now echoed with the occasional stomp of armored boots and the distant thrum of shuttle engines. Curfews were enforced with cold precision. Civilians complied, some out of fear, some out of hope that cooperation would lead to leniency. But there was something else, too. Something quiet, spreading beneath the surface like oil under ice. The resistance didn't announce itself. It had no name, no flags. It was rumor at first, a whisper in abandoned subways, a coded message scratched into lampposts, a certain phrase spoken on pirate radio. Project Lazarus Lives. Most dismissed it as fantasy, a story told by those who couldn't accept the new order. But a few didn't. A few remembered. In a windowless room beneath a condemned train station, 5 people sat around a metal table. Maps were spread out between them, smudged with grease and old blood. Faint light flickered from a solar-powered lantern overhead, the kind used in rural blackouts before Earth had been liberated. A wiry man with deep-set eyes pointed to a red circle on the map. They deployed atmospheric sensors here, along the Appalachians. Probably detected anomalous ballistic trails. They're hunting something. Across the table, a woman named Alara Shaw leaned in, brow furrowed. She had once worn Earth's flag on her shoulder, back when that meant something. Now she wore a plain gray jacket and a holster with no sidearm. Not something, she corrected. Someone. They all knew who she meant, though none said his name. Not out loud. Captain Marcus Hale had disappeared 3 years earlier, presumed dead after a failed counterinsurgency campaign in Sudan. But Hale wasn't dead. He had simply chosen to vanish before the world surrendered. And now, he was a ghost that walked with purpose. Elsewhere, miles away and 1,000 feet above sea level, Marcus lay prone beneath a gilly shroud, watching an alien relay station through a narrow lens. It rose like a silver fungus in a forest, armored panels flexing as it shifted between signal sweeps. He could hear it, barely, a soft mechanical exhale, like a sleeping animal. The rifle pressed warm against his shoulder. No HUD, no targeting overlay, just glass and steel and the weight of breath between heartbeats. He'd waited here for 2 days, eaten cold protein packs, urinated in a tube, listened to rain fall on leaves. Waiting wasn't the hard part. It was a stillness that tested a man's mind. Through the scope, he marked 3 aliens on patrol. Their armor shimmered in and out of visible light, their steps eerily smooth. Their weapons looked grown, not built, organic curves shaped by hands that never knew rust. And yet they moved with arrogance, as if nothing on this planet could touch them. Marcus counted the seconds between their patrol loops. On the 12th rotation, one of them paused, checking a scanner. Marcus didn't blink. He didn't need to anymore. He adjusted for elevation and crosswind. His finger caressed the trigger, but he didn't fire. Not yet. Instead, he murmured into the throat mic tucked beneath his collar. Relay pattern confirmed. Tri-point perimeter. No drone sweeping northwest quadrant. A voice crackled back. Elara, understood. Team Rook moving in to extract core data. You're not to engage unless compromised. Copy. Marcus watched his 3 resistance operatives, camouflaged with earth-grown tech and movement drilled from a doctrine older than the occupation, slithered toward the relay. One carried an EMP spike. Another held a collapsible plasma siphon. They didn't look like soldiers. They looked like survivors. That made them dangerous. The aliens didn't notice them. That made them dead. 2 minutes later, the spike was in place. A flicker of energy pulsed outward. The station dimmed, then went silent. The aliens didn't fall, but their armor flickered in protest. Interference scrambling their sensors for 6 full seconds. Long enough. A suppressed burst cracked the air. One alien dropped. A neat hole where I had been. The other 2 scrambled for cover, but one was hit mid-motion, armor shattering on impact. The last tried to call for backup. Marcus's second shot severed the comm unit from its shoulder before the transmission could spark. By the time Galactic reinforcement arrived, all they found was static, scorch marks, and blood. The resistance team was gone, vanished into the undergrowth. The sniper? Not even a footprint. Later that night, in a high-orbit command vessel, Sergeant Vesh reviewed the footage. He paused the recording on the moment the first alien fell. Zoomed in, frame by frame. There was no energy discharge, no thermal bloom, no electronic trace. Ballistics, he said quietly. His superior, a tall Corellian with crimson oculars, made a guttural sound of disgust. Impossible. They lacked the sophistication. No guidance, no smart tech. Their primitive tools can't possibly outmatch our suppression grid. Vesh didn't respond. He simply watched the video again. He was beginning to understand something. Humanity's weapons weren't backward. They were invisible, silent, immune to the systems of Galactic Accord relied on. They had built their empire on the assumption that war was a language of light and noise. But Earth had always spoken in shadows. He filed a tactical alert, marking the sniper as an emergent class threat. Command rejected the classification. An isolated insurgent does not constitute strategic priority. The reply said. Vesh disagreed, but he was not in command. Back on Earth, Marcus cleaned his rifle in a barn older than the country it once belonged to. He moved in silence, each part handled like a sacred relic. Elara entered, pulling the hood from her head. They're spooked, she said. They should be, he replied. She hesitated. You ever think they'll stop underestimating us? Marcus looked up, one corner of his mouth curling. Not quite a smile. Not before it's too late. He slid the bolt back into place and looked east, where the sky was beginning to pale. Tomorrow, he would aim higher. At first, the Galactic Union dismissed the sniper reports as battlefield confusion, fog of war anomalies blamed on faulty sensors or cowardly humans exaggerating losses. A few surveillance failures. An unexpected casualty. Minor irritations in a war already won. But then it kept happening. Field Command logged a new incident every 30 hours. Always the same pattern. A brief disruption in atmospheric pressure, a sudden impact in something or someone. Critical went dead. No warning. No trace. No energy profile. And worst of all, no recovery. Every bullet was a message. Each kill surgical, purposeful. Sergeant Vesh reviewed the latest report alone in a low-orbit command chamber, a simulation dome that replicated a tactile version of the battlefield below. Holograms shimmered around him, frozen in the last seconds before the most recent death. The victim was Commander Raltok, a senior logistics officer and vocal critic of Earth's residual threat. He'd been struck cleanly through the visor, through armor rated to repel energy weapons at close range. The kill came from over 2 kilometers out, based on trajectory modeling. The projectile was metal. Dumb. Ancient. Vesh studied the vector again, rotating the holographic scene. "He's adapting," he muttered. "He?" asked the attending analyst, a pale-skinned Arcanet who rarely spoke without direct questioning. "The shooter. This isn't random. He's testing our response net, watching our patterns, learning." The analyst's skin flushed blue. No single human can possess that level of tactical precision unaided. "You're not dealing with just a human," Vesh said. "You're dealing with one raised in a world where death is a craft." Down on Earth, Marcus Hale crouched in the remnants of a collapsed observatory, assembling a new rifle from salvage parts. The bolt was military issue from 30 years ago. The barrel, custom machined by a resistance engineer who died in a drone raid. The optics? Pure glass. No power source. He didn't need anything else. He'd memorized every patrol route, drone frequency, and exfil window within a 100-mile radius. Data came in via encrypted courier drives. No networks. No transmissions. He operated in silence, his trigger the only signal Earth still had the courage to send. His targets weren't random. He hit comm officers, logistics runners, relay drones, sensor pylons. Every bullet delayed an operation, rerouted resources, bled morale. What they didn't understand, he exploited. What they thought beneath them, he turned into their fear. Ilera met him the night after his 5th confirmed kill. They stood on the roof of an abandoned train station, watching a Galactic recon ship pass silently overhead. "They're changing protocols," she said. "Deploying kill teams. Hybrid tech. Better sensors. You're not invisible anymore." "I was never invisible," Marcus said. "I was ignored." She glanced sideways at him. "You think they'll stop underestimating you now?" "I don't care if they do. I only care that they know they're being hunted." A week later, the kill team landed in Alaska. 6 elite soldiers. Neural-linked. Adaptive armor. Each carried a biological pulse rifle that fired at the speed of thought. They established a forward base beneath Denali, locking down airspace within 20 minutes. Their mission was specific. Terminate the sniper. Alive or dead didn't matter. They found nothing. Marcus had already moved. He knew about the deployment before the dropship even hit atmosphere. He had contact in places the aliens had never bothered to check. Deep mines, rotted bunkers, valleys too remote for even drones to scan. He watched their movement from miles away, plotting their patrols on a hand-drawn map. They brought tech. He brought patience. For days in, they lost their first soldier. Shot through a breach in his armor, no wider than a coin, during a blizzard at dusk. The second was taken in the early hours of morning, just before sunrise. He'd knelt to inspect a human boot print that hadn't been there the day before. The bullet entered just beneath his chin. The Galactic Union ordered a live capture. They got a body bag instead. Each failed extraction became a broadcast the Resistance didn't even need to make. People talked, in whispers at first, then in shouts. Graffiti began to appear on walls that hadn't seen paint in months. The Phantom Marksman. One shot, one warning. We are not prey. In a refugee settlement outside Berlin, a boy barely 10 years old drew a rifle on the side of a destroyed transport carrier. Beneath it, he scrawled a sentence in charcoal. "They bleed like we do." Back aboard the Tasserel, Vesh stood before a tribunal of galactic strategists. Holographic images flickered behind him. A growing list of casualties, infrastructure sabotage, morale metrics trending downward. The council was restless. "This sniper represents a myth more than a man," said one of the elders. "These events are isolated." "Respectfully," Vesh replied, "so is gravity, until it was measured." Another elder leaned forward. You suggest an escalation? I suggest containment has failed. We thought they needed energy to fight. We were wrong. They need purpose, and we've given it to them. A silence followed. Finally, approval was granted for orbital deterrence measures, an implicit threat. One more kill, and Earth would feel the full weight of galactic justice. Vesh didn't speak as the meeting ended. He only watched the last image on the display, Marcus Hale, grainy and partially obscured, taken from a weather drone 30 seconds before transmission went dead. Down on Earth, Ilera handed Marcus a small object, a data crystal salvaged from a down patrol. He held it up to the moonlight, letting the fractured rays glint off its edges. They're preparing a summit, she said. High command, not on the surface. Orbital. Security's tight. Marcus nodded slowly. You're thinking of hitting it, she said, more statement than question. Thinking's not the hard part, he replied. Calculating the drop? Accounting for drag over distance, curvature, ship shielding. That's the part that takes time. She frowned. It's impossible. He looked up at the stars, eyes calm, voice steady. Then it's perfect. In low orbit above Earth, the Galactic Union summit ship Valerian hung suspended like a silver scythe above the dark curve of the planet. It was the most secure vessel in Earth's sky, wrapped in kinetic dispersal plating, directional cloaking, and a dozen layers of rotating orbital countermeasures. It shimmered against the blackness of space like something divine, and the beings inside believed it untouchable. Within the command hall, 12 senior strategists of the Galactic Accord stood in a ring of flickering projection feeds, one for each major Earth quadrant. Data flowed across their vision. Rebellion reports, civilian disobedience charts, sabotage tallies, and an anomaly list that kept growing. At the center, General Suroff paced with reptilian elegance, long fingers laced behind his back, voice heavy with restrained disdain. One human, he said, stopping mid-circle, has stalled our planetary compliance plan by nearly 4 cycles. Entire sectors are collapsing into disobedience because of whispers, not artillery, not fleets, whispers of a man with a gun. The others murmured. None dared interrupt. This sniper, he continued, tasting the word like acid, has eliminated 17 assets without trace. High-ranking officers, communication arrays, and even a shadow operative wearing full-phase invisibility plating. His methods defy logic. He operates outside every predictive model. From the outer circle, Sergeant Vesh stepped forward. He was the only one not projecting fear or confusion, only a grim understanding. His armor bore fresh scoring from field operations. He had chosen to return to Earth repeatedly, while others observed from orbit. His name is Marcus Hale, Vesh said, voice level, former Special Forces, ballistic expert, confirmed dead by Earth's own records. But he isn't dead. He's watching, and he's choosing when to remind us of that. Suroff sneered. You suggest a single insurgent intends to strike this vessel? Here? In orbit? He doesn't need to believe it's possible, Vesh replied. He only needs to try. That's what makes him dangerous. The general waved the talon in dismissal. Our defenses are absolute. This summit is a declaration of control. Let him watch. But Marcus Hale was not watching. He was calculating. Beneath the wind-battered peak of Kurok Ridge, he lay wrapped in thermal camouflage, motionless for hours, surrounded by nothing but rock, snow, and sky. The rifle before him was an abomination, built from recovered parts, hand machine components, and human ingenuity. It was more artillery than firearm, mounted on a custom-forged cradle, balanced with millimeter precision. Beside him, Ilera knelt silently, her breath visible in the cold. She watched Marcus with the reverence of someone who'd stopped questioning the impossible. You're really going to shoot into orbit, she said. He didn't answer. He was focused on wind drift, the thermal updraft from a valley below, the rotational path of the Valerian, mapped over 3 weeks with nothing but resistance spotters and analog instruments. It's got to be the perfect moment, he murmured. Only one chance. If I miss by even half a degree, the round won't breach the hull, or it burns up, or I hit the wrong chamber. You'll only have a window of, what 3 seconds. 2.6, he corrected. She hesitated. If you miss, I won't. He adjusted the scope. No digital interface. No AI assist. Just glass and his instincts, honed through wars both remembered and buried. The bullet itself, thicker than a man's thumb, was a custom Sabo core, tungsten-sheathed and magnetically sealed. It had taken 3 engineers and 2 machinists months to build, with materials smuggled piece by piece from half a dozen continents. It wasn't fast. It wasn't smart. But it was aimed. At precisely 6:32 and 7 seconds Greenwich Mean Time, the Valerian passed over Kuruk Ridge at its lowest orbital range. No ship systems registered anything unusual until the bullet arrived. It tore through the stratosphere in silence, accelerated only by gravity and Hale's unerring precision. No flare, no exhaust, no signal, just mass and momentum. The round struck the summit's viewing dome with concussive snap of air displacement, bypassing energy shields tuned to intercept plasma. The impact shattered the reinforced alloy in a focus cone, and the projectile continued, undeterred, through General Cyrith's skull. The chamber decompressed in an instant. Atmosphere sucked out in a violent whoosh. Screams followed, then lights, then alarms. Automated shutters slammed down, but the damage was done. Blood floated in globules. The summit was over before any order could be given. Back on Earth, Marcus watched through a scope, unfazed by the lack of explosion. He didn't need fire to mark victory, just the knowledge that somewhere above they were bleeding. Ilera whispered, almost in disbelief. You hit it. They'll scramble communications, try to cover it up. But they'll know. He nodded. And now they'll fear the ground. In orbit, chaos gave way to silence. The Valerian retreated from Earth's geosynchronous path, rerouting to a higher orbit. A summit of control had turned into a tomb. Later, Vesh stood at the shattered chamber, looking through the sealed, cracked viewport Earth below. He didn't speak for a long time. Finally, alone, he recorded a message. Marcus Hale. Human designation. Sniper. Class. Uncontainable. Strategic recommendation. Withdraw. He paused. Not because of firepower. Not because of threat scale. Because they are what we forgot we were. Relentless. Unreasonable. Capable of creating fear with only one shot. He closed the file. In the Appalachian woods, Marcus buried the rifle beneath the roots of a twisted pine. Not because he feared being found, but because he believed the next war wouldn't require it. At least not yet. Ilera handed him a cracked radio, tuned to a pirate frequency. On the other end, a voice buzzed through the static. Human, tired, alive. They ran, the voice said. The summit ship pulled back. They're scared. In the background, others cheered. Ilera smiled. You think this is it? That they'll leave for good? Marcus looked up toward the stars, expression unreadable. No, he said. They'll be back. Then what changes? They'll bring more weapons, he said, slinging his pack over his shoulder. We'll bring more purpose. He turned and walked into the trees, a silhouette against the rising dawn. Behind him, Earth was still broken, but it was no longer silent.